It's been a fantastic season, but we want to know, has Harry or Toby had the biggest impact on that season? This is your e-Spurs podcast, Extra Time. Hi guys, welcome to Extra Time this week, your e-Spurs podcast. Each and every week we get your views on the big talking point of the week. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, this week we want to know, has Toby and his defending or Harry and his goals had the biggest impact on Spurs' fantastic season? And if you listen to the main podcast on Wednesday, you'll know that we spoke about the success of the team, Harry's goals, and how good it is to have Toby at the back. So we thought it'd be a good idea to get your views on who has been most influential in our team in this fantastic season. As always, guys, you've been great in getting your responses to us via Twitter and Facebook. At @e_Spurs on the Twitter and e-Spurs page on the Facebook. And the lads out there tonight, the e-Spurs team, have got your responses for us. I am joined by Ian, by John and by Ricky tonight for Extra Time. Really good topic this week, guys, to get our teeth into. Some good topics we've had over the weeks, but this one has really got you guys thinking, and some really good responses, some really well thought out responses, I thought, this week, because they're both, of course, great players in their own right. They've both contributed hugely in their own way. So it was interesting to find out who you thought had maybe just contributed that little bit more to the success of the team this season. As I say, we have got those responses for you. First up, though, let's get the views of our team. John, let's come to you first up on this one, mate. Harry and Toby, both fantastic players in their own right. But for you, who has slightly had the edge in how much they've contributed to the success of the side this season?
To be fair, I think I don't want to take Harry Kane for granted. He could have gone the other way, and he could have scored, only a few this season, but he hasn't. He's cracked on, and he's done what he's done last season again. I think the obvious difference from last season is the goal difference. He's scored a similar amount of goals, but the defence has been tight as you like. So for me, I think I don't want to be taking Harry Kane for granted, and the fact that he is going to score a hatful of goals every season, but it looks like he probably will do that for the rest of his career.
Do you think, John, that we as Spurs fans maybe are in a little bit of danger of doing that? Because last week we had the talking point on about the player of the season, and Harry Kane, strangely enough, didn't get one vote in that. And we spoke before the podcast, didn't we, that maybe that's because we expect it now from Harry. So do you think, as a Spurs fan base, we're maybe in danger a little bit of taking Harry Kane for granted?
The season started off not so well for him, and maybe the doubts were starting to creep in with a lot of our fans. But as soon as he started getting on a roll with it, and he hasn't stopped, has he? So I do think he does get taken for granted a little bit. But then at the same time, the player, I'm pretty sure that any striker would score a hatful of goals in this team. So
yeah,
again, I know it really does sound like I'm just expecting him to turn up and score every game, because that's what he does do. But at the same time, Toby turns up and defends like his life depends on it every week as well. So it's a little bit like, I think it's the only reason I would say Toby's been more important really is just because of the goal difference and how leaky we were last season. But then we didn't exactly have Beckenbauer at centre half last season, did we? So I think the problem is it's been, Harry Kane is a constant. He was there last season, he's there again. Whereas last season we had Jan Vertonghen plus a donkey, depending on which one it was who got picked on the day. So it's a bit unfair really again on Harry, because it seems like he's being overshadowed by other players again, even though he deserves, if he gets voted our player of the year, he'd fully deserve it.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, the fact that we've got the best defence in the league, which has never happened as far as I know, maybe not since the days of probably Bill Nick, to be fair. It's been that long, so
yeah,
it's never been anything. But clean sheets have always been more of a rarity than a decent goal scorer at Tottenham. So I think that Toby, for me, Toby's been the signing of the season in the league, not just for us. So I would have to say, if you push me, that Toby's been more important. But at the same time, still love Harry, and we appreciate what he's doing.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fantastic. And we've waited so long to have quality in both those positions, haven't we? Up front, I mean, we've had individuals maybe who we had, the Klinsmans, the Linekers. But over the last 10 years, you could argue possibly haven't had a top level striker before Kane came along. If we have, they escape my mind at the moment. And the same in defence, we've had the Kings, who was very unlucky. We've had, other individuals in there who come in and did a job. But in terms of being top quality, I think Alderweireld certainly would be up there with King in my mind. King maybe has the edge, as we've spoken about before, because he's a Spurs man, but Alderweireld's fantastic quality. What have you got on the social media for us, mate?
I've got Daniel Clare at Dan83. Toby, we scored plenty last season, but let far too many in. Toby is the main factor in that. We've got Chris Gregory at Chris Gregory 92. Goals win games. Hard choice. Toby has changed that back line, but goals win games. We've also got John DeGroot at Bullet 0312. Toby, hands down, removed our soft touch of seasons past. Cannot remember ever conceding so few goals, and I started following in 1981. So we've got a bit of a mixture there, but like I said, I'm on Toby's side on this one.
Yeah, you're going with Toby. Some really interesting points there, though, Rick, wasn't there? In terms of one person who mentioned there that goals win games, which of course we know. Having said that, sometimes a tackle, a well-placed, well-timed tackle, is as good as a goal, isn't it?
Yeah, I agree. And this is a very, very tough choice to make, because when as a Spurs fan, I don't think in my lifetime I can say that I've seen a better defender, and I'm putting Ledley involved in that only because Ledley, with his injuries, he was no doubt. Ledley King was a Rolls Royce of a defender. Read the game, superb. The respect he commanded from his teammates at the time was amazing. I think what you also have to take into consideration as well, just very quickly on Ledley, is that some of the players he had around him, the team he's got now, Toby, that he's playing around, they're all decent players. Ledley King played in the days of Chris Perry, Doherty, the Achimoviches, the Bunjaseviches. So we have to remember that Ledley played in teams where really he didn't have much of a support around him. But I still say that Toby Alderweireld is the best defender in my lifetime watching Spurs. His reading of the game, the way he brings the ball out from the back, the calmness, the composure he has on the ball. And you can just see the element of trust that the fullbacks have in him. And again, up front with Harry Kane, I'm going to say the same about Kane. Robbie Keane was a player that I idolised in a Tottenham shirt because he had that ability to do anything in a blink of an eye of a ball. Defoe, pure finisher. Berbatov, probably one of the best players you've seen in terms of getting a first touch. Teddy Sheringham, poacher. But Harry Kane scores such a wide variation of goals. It's beyond belief. And to be honest with you, Kane, you can see him if he stays at Spurs. I think, like we spoke about a couple of weeks ago on the pod, possibly going on to be one of the club's greatest ever goal scorers. I don't think he'll eclipse Jimmy Greaves, but I certainly think he won't be far behind him if he stays at Spurs and does end up being a one-club man. Because the question with Kane, just on this debate, is that many were going to say, can he do it for a second season? The way many are going to say, can Jamie Vardy do it for a second season? The difference between a player being good and being great is, can they sustain it for a second season? Well, Kane, despite having, I think he went the first 5 or 6 games without scoring, he's still somehow bettered his goal scoring record and he's broken last season's tally. And we've still got 3 games to go. Yeah. So this is a really, really tough choice to pick. I'm going to say Toby because never have I seen a more solidified Tottenham defence in my lifetime. But that, I then feel a great sense of injustice at the same time to Harry Kane, who has gone on to become, well, I didn't think, in essence, when Kane broke through, I'll be honest and say that I didn't think Kane was good enough. So that tells you, Tottenham fans out there that, have opinions and stuff. It just shows you how your opinions can be changed around.
I agree with you totally, Rick. I think there was a European game I remember watching. I think
Shamrock Rovers.
Yeah, absolutely. Rovers? And I remember Kane playing in that game, and just before he came on, I remember thinking, "Oh crikey, we're bringing on Kane." It was that sort of feeling. And how wrong can you be?
Listen, as a fan though, Andy, that's what we want, isn't it? We get criticised, we say certain things, and people out there, whatever. We want to be proven wrong. That's what we want. We don't want to have a go at certain things or certain situations, but we do say, when we've said during the season, we want a game changer, we want this to change, we want that, we want a plan B. We don't just say it for a reason just to complain. We say it because we just want what's best for the team, and we want to see players prove us wrong. Yeah. And if anything, Harry Kane has been one of those players that a lot of fans, when he first came on, got on his back thinking he wasn't good enough. Sher was just favouring him because he played him in the under-21s and whatever. But he's gone on to be such a fantastic player. He's earned the respect of the Tottenham crowd. And listen, his name is sung every single game, home and away. He knows what he is to this club. Like I said last week, he embodies everything to do with Tottenham Hotspur. And I don't think he's a player that will be tempted away easy. He doesn't strike me that kind of lad. He's very, very, like I say, comes across so well on interviews, so well grounded. Both of those players, Alderweireld, Harry, they've been absolute. Can't even put a word together for them. They've been superb this season. They really have.
So Toby gets your vote. I'll tell you what, just picking up on a point you made there about Kane, Rick, was that another thing that really impresses me about Kane is the fact that he's a great role model. For any young kid growing up, for any young Spurs fan watching a game, he's the sort of player as a parent you'd want your kid to aspire to become. And when you compare him alongside somebody like, for example, Jamie Vardy, who's getting most of the plaudits this season, I mean, it's chalk and cheese, isn't it? When you see the anger and the aggression that pours from Jamie Vardy at any decision, and the attitude that he plays with, and I mean, and then you compare that to the way that Harry Kane plays. Like, he's such an old-fashioned type of centre forward, isn't he? In the likes of, I know he's been compared a lot to Alan Shearer, but he really is that type of centre forward, the Alan Shearer type player. Having said that, Shearer also, in many ways, was similar to Vardy in that he'd circle the referee when decisions went against him. He'd do that sort of thing, whereas Kane doesn't. He's such a gentleman, but he's also a winner, and he's proved that. He's a great goal scorer, and that's why, in my mind, he'll go on to become one of the greats, the true greats, and why he should be getting the plaudits rather than Jamie Vardy, because he's the role model that you'd want your kids to aspire to become. Such a great player, Rick, what have you got for us on social media?
Okay, so tonight I've got Nigel Courtenage at N Courtenage, who says not sitting on fence, but quite obviously both. Our goal difference
sounds like sitting on the fence to me, Rick.
Does sound like a little bit. Our goal difference is down to Fab defending, one out and out striker, so cannot go against one. Next, I've got Lee Bright at Lee Yido 74, who says Toby for me has been fantastic and not made any mistakes all season, which is very rare for a defender. Pure class. And I've got Sandeep Kumar at Little Aristotle, who says Kane's goals. Our early season draws were because he was off form for a while. Had he been on form, we would have easily won the league.
So another mixture there, and another example of how much this subject divided everybody. It's so hard to choose, isn't it? Ian, what side of that fence do you sit on this one?
I think I sit on the Alderweireld side of the fence. I've supported Tottenham off and on since sort of like the late 60s, early 70s. And we've always had the ability to score a goal, but we've often struggled to be in a situation where we've been able to hold the lead. Now, looking at where we are now, we're in a situation where we have got a guy at the back in Alderweireld who, I don't know how he does it. He just seems to be able to be in the right place at the right time. I think we discussed it on last week's pod where I don't think in sort of like 4,000 minutes of football, he'd made 9 fouls.
Yeah,
that is unprecedented in the modern game, where players are fast and quick and canny when they're around the box. And what that tells me is we've got a man who is positionally astute, reads the game well, and he stays on his feet. If you notice that, he will only go to ground if he's having to make a last ditch type tackle. I think he's as somebody that Rick read out. He's a class act. On the Harry Kane side, I don't think any of us could have predicted as fans when he came on that against the Shamrock Rovers, as you said. I don't think any of us could have predicted that what we saw that night would end up being the striker we had. And I think the words that I would use for both Toby and Harry is that they're dignified people. They come across as respectful. They come across as dignified. That wonderful clip of Harry going round to that young lad's house and doing the chores as part of the hospice partnership that we have.
Yeah.
It couldn't help but melt your heart, and you think to yourself, I couldn't see Jamie Vardy doing that.
That does make such a big difference, doesn't it, in terms of the type of player, the attitude they play with. And it doesn't mean that Kane's not a winner. He's still very much a winner, but he plays football in the right way. He's the sort of player you'd want, playing for your team and representing your team, isn't he? And it's fantastic to watch when he's on. Could you maybe, Ian, there are going to be the Harry Kane fans out there who would maybe argue, well, Harry Kane has done it in a team up front on his own, whereas Toby has had good defenders in the likes of Wimmer and Vertonghen next to him, Lloris behind him, whereas Kane has done it as a solo striker.
Yes. You could argue though that if you look at it, the platform of having a decent defence and a good spine in the middle allows other flair players to get up in support of Kane. You look at the goals, or the second goal that Kane scored against Stoke a couple of Monday nights ago, and that was a team effort. Yeah. The fact that we defended the corner well, we broke, and then I think it was Lamela that squared it for Kane to tap it into an empty net. I think we now have the structure to be able to get the best out of all of our players, and especially Harry Kane.
Yeah, it's a great point. It is such a team game, isn't it? And we've seen that more than ever at Spurs this season, in terms of the unit that we've got and them playing off of each other. I'd be interested to find out in years to come. I know it was mentioned during the game on Monday night for anybody who watched it on television. There were a couple of comments as to whether or not Kane in years to come might maybe play more as a number 10 than a 9. It'd be interesting to see how that works out. Maybe in a similar way that Rooney's developed throughout his career. There are a lot that would maybe argue that it hasn't worked out for Rooney playing in that way, dropping further back. But Kane, I agree with you totally, and you want the ball at his feet on the edge of the box where he can turn and have that shot. He's lethal, isn't he? Absolutely lethal. Yeah. What have you got from the social media lot for us this week?
Okay, the first one I've got is from Bleed Spurs at Bleed Spurs. Spurs now know at the back of their heads that Alderweireld sniffs out danger expertly. Therefore, it gives them more freedom to express themselves going forward, and this has led to Kane scoring so many this season. We've then got Hotshot Tottenham at Yido90. Don't get me wrong, Alderweireld has been awesome, but having Dembele and Dyer in front of him makes life a lot easier. And then we've got Harry Charalambus at Prime Spur 1992. Alderweireld's defending. Don't forget Kane netted 20 plus goals last season also, but we were 5th, albeit he has scored more this year. So there's a good range of comments there, and it's good that somebody picked up on the screening that they now get, and I think that I alluded to that in the fact that we've now got that strong spine throughout the entire sort of team.
Yeah, spot on. And I think John mentioned it on the podcast proper earlier on in the week that Dyer is another one that has pretty much gone unmentioned in this player of the season vote. He goes about his job so quietly and so effectively that you hardly notice he's there at times. But when you look at the stats, as we mentioned on the podcast last week, he's always there or thereabouts at the top. So effective in there. And he's the sort of player that, who knows, we might see him return to a defensive role in years to come. We might keep him where he is, but he's so effective in what he does. It's fantastic to have that. And it's only his first season.
Really exciting young prospects within our team, and they can only get better.
Yeah, absolutely. The future's very, very bright. Future's bright. And that is the end of your extra time this week. We have a result. Our team say Toby Alderweireld had the biggest impact on our season this year with his defending, and fantastic defending it has been. What an asset to have in our side, and what an asset Harry Kane is. And long may both of them last in Spurs colours. That is your extra time for this week, guys. Don't forget to catch the e-Spurs podcast proper, which will go out next week on Wednesday, I believe. So catch that one, and the extra time, which of course will follow next week. We'll be back after the Chelsea game, so don't forget to tune in for that.